Grandma was a neat freak. At least, that's what my mom called her. To me, she was just a normal, sweet, old lady. Though she did have her special little quirks that no one else had. Still, she was the most wonderful woman in the world. The quirks could get a little annoying though. Whenever we get to her house, we'd have to wash our feet with these special white rags. Then, she'd have us sit down in the mudroom and clip our fingernails and toenails. Sometimes, she'd even sit us down and trim our hair. If she was in a specific mood, my mother would absolutely flip out. But there was no arguing with her. She just had her own way of doing things. Her obsession with cleanliness had its good points though. We never had to do anything when we stayed with her. She would always clean up after us and just let us sit on the couch and even watch cartoons all day long. Then, she made this amazing stew a couple times a year. It was special because it tasted like nothing else in the world. Being at Grandma's house was much like being in heaven. However, about 2 years ago, Gran got cancer. Inoperable, they said. They gave her only 6 months. Even though, through it all, she still kept to her cleaning. Trim your fingernails, wash your feet. Even when she became weak, she would not allow us to clean up after ourselves. When she was gone, her belongings were left to my sister, Tara, and myself. My mother was spending time in Rome and my father wasn't around, so it was up to us to go through Grandma's stuff. Honestly, we didn't think there'd be much to go through. I mean, she kept the whole house neat and tidy. Never a room undusted, never anything out of place. Tara and I sat down on the old sofa that had been there forever. We talked for a while. About life, death, Grandma. What would we do with her things? We went back and forth between splitting them up and selling them for profit. Ultimately, we decided to take the things we liked and sell the things we didn't. It took 3 days to pack up the smaller things. While Grandma was all about being clean, she also had a lot of stuff. A whole lot. There were certain knickknacks that we fought over, such as this little Santa Claus statue that was bent over. It had a huge ass, and was always an object of much laughter between Tara and myself. There were also items that both of us hated. We decided that instead of selling them, we'd just burn them. They always gave us this weird feeling. More out of all the items, we hated this throw rug that sat in the middle of the kitchen. It smelled horrible, and just looking at it would make your stomach flip. We decided we were going to burn that first. However, when we went to roll it up, we noticed something. A cellar door. We both looked at each other in confusion. We had never seen anyone go down there, nor had my grandmother ever mentioned it. Maybe it was not functional. Still, our sense of adventure and curiosity took over. We thought that maybe the door would be hard to open, but it opened with ease. The stairs were fine and well used. They didn't even creak as we climbed down into the cellar. I know you're thinking, classic cliché, right? Anyway, the basement was unsurprisingly clean, the only furniture being a chair. There were a ton of boxes. We both looked at each other and groaned. More shit to look through. It wasn't at all what we expected though. Not knickknacks, no old family photos, just a ton of notebooks. Many of them were empty. In fact, most of them were. However, we found about a dozen or so that were full. We sat down and started to read. Leafing through one of the first ones, it was pretty obvious that the handwriting was extremely different. Every few pages were different entirely. She's making us write in these. I don't know why. Maybe she gets some sick fucking pleasure from reading it over. There's only 2 of us now. The other one that was here stopped breathing last night. I think she gagged on her own vomit. Who knows? I don't care anymore. I'm not going to survive this. I want to cry, The dirty rag she shoved in my mouth just makes it worse. Tara and I looked nervously at each other. I leafed to another page with different handwriting. I don't know how I got here. She tells me that I have to write down all of this down, or she'll kill me immediately. I'm scared. I'm truly scared. She's been feeding us slop. It's like ground beef, but with pieces of glass in it or something. It's painful to swallow, but she'll cut us if we don't lick the plate clean. For every speck she sees, we get one slice. I read a few more before moving on to the next notebook. Nothing showed much variation until the last page of the second notebook. I know what those nasty ass sharp pieces are. They're fucking fingernails, man. I think she's been feeding us fingernails. I think there might be hair in it too. God fucking help us. My sister and I stared at each other for a while, both thinking whether or not this could be about Grandma. Nothing made sense. We never saw her go into the cellar. We didn't even know it existed. We never had anyone. Then again, the TV was always blaring. Grandma always complained that it was too low. Still, we ultimately decided to search through more of the boxes, even though we had both slightly agreed that it was probably fiction. I mean, Grandma spent a lot of time with us, but we still had no idea what she did in her spare time. There were a lot more notebooks, but only a few of them had any writing in them. There was only one more box in the back. Inside were no notebooks, but Polaroids. Photos of people, some out in public, then some in her basement, tied up, gagged with dirty white rags, much similar to the ones she had used to clean our feet with. There were photos of their wounds, then the food they were fed, obviously with hair and fingernails in them. Then there were the bodies. We counted about 20 of them. Photos of her, cutting them up, cooking large pieces of their flesh, putting the meat into the stew. There were a few other photos too. Us eating dinner. Us in the mudroom. My sister and I were both shaking and crying by the time we got through them all. We climbed back up the stairs and sat for a while, not speaking, not looking at each other. Should we call the police? Tara asked, voice wavering. I hadn't even thought of it. Would they even investigate? I didn't know. The more I thought about it, the more horrifically brilliant it was in a way. I mean, who would suspect a neat freak elderly woman to commit multiple murder?